Leominster Conservation Commission for November 13th, 2018. We're going to start with our continued hearings. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There will be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Edward, Frateski, for the clearing of 37,000 square feet of land and construction in a new two-story building within the buffer zone of the bordering vegetated wetland, address Central Street, map 500, lot 5, DEP 199, 1075.
For the record, Chris Anderson with Handy Engineering. We're on behalf of the Lot 5 Realty Trust, the construction of a 9,600 square foot commercial building. We've been before the commission several times so far, and we left off the last hearing relative to concerns about a manhole structure from the state drainage system. Just a quick overview, we have Central Street through here, the wetland series that encroaches upland near the abutting property. We have reached out to Mass DOT, and I do have copies of my email correspondence with them to document it. I reviewed with the DOT engineer regarding potentially putting a storm scepter or some other kind of equivalent proprietary treatment device at the location of DMH4, which would be located near a existing head wall outlet for the Central Street drainage system. And the long and short of it is the DOT does not accept the implementation of any kind of proprietary storm structures within their drainage system. So unfortunately, because of that, we're not able to go forward with actually installing a storm scepter because it wouldn't be properly maintained by the DOT. With that being said, we are still providing the 10-foot level spreader device that will provide the required reduction in the velocities and help mitigate the potential erosion issues from the site. This is a 10-foot structure. It's quite large, so it should be sufficient in order to prevent any additional erosion. And as I explained during the previous hearing, this is within our interest to maintain, so we will be maintaining this, cleaning it, removing debris as needed. Because it is near our structures and our retaining wall, it's actually more advantageous for us to maintain that. So with the proper maintenance, this should provide, granted minimal than TSS removal, but some kind of TSS removal in a part of that. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Where was the catch basin / storm scepter?
It would be located right at the entranceway.
Right at the entrance, okay.
Yep.
And currently the system just dumps off from the road.
Yeah, so there's a couple manhole structures through here. The catch basins that collect water from Central Street and whatnot, and the abutting properties, and they discharge to an existing head wall that's been abandoned or not properly maintained, to be frank, and then it overland flows through to the wetland area.
Okay. So that catch basin would collect what? If all, yeah, because if all the flow is going to the one across the street currently.
Yes.
Is that,
well, this would just be a normal manhole structure, no inlets or anything like that. But it would these systems are essentially capturing most of the stormwater from up through here, down to here. So it's a very small area, but again, it wouldn't be able to be maintained by the state.
I still have the same concerns that, depositing sediment right into the wetland, within feet of the wetland, which ultimately is going to get into the wetland. And that hasn't been addressed, so.
okay.
Chris, you said we have an interest in maintaining this.
The landowner would be.
So it would be the landowner that we really don't even know who that is yet, correct?
The landowner is the Lot 5 Realty Trust, the applicant.
And what kind of a maintenance schedule would that entail?
This would require a seasonal inspection and replacement of the stone and sediment that would be built up in here. So essentially the same schedule you would see when you're having deep sump catch basins inspected.
Seasonal as in fall or spring or both?
pretty much at the end of the winter season, so in the spring, and then just prior to winter.
And let me just back up a minute. DOT would not let you put the storm receptor in their system.
Correct.
So you're proposing to put it on your own?
So we're required by stormwater management to provide treatment of our stormwater. There is no, there's very little pavement, essentially just enough to get the road in.
Right.
That's actually getting into onto the roadway. And of that, none of it's getting into the actual treatment or the actual train that's within the DOT line.
Right.
So, remember on the site walk, so from that head wall, it just overland flow.
Yeah. That river lets out and eventually kind of spreads itself out.
So at the last meeting, we wanted to see some sort of treatment device there.
Yeah.
Is that not a easement right now? Is it a storm?
It is a drainage easement that's owned by the, or has the right for the actual DOT.
So I guess what is your proposal to, are you gonna do anything or just the spreader?
Just the spreader.
Is there anything you could do, like even a deep sump or something like that?
I did propose that at the last hearing to install
Okay.
some sort of a deep sump manhole similar to a catch basin was, but
Or would something better?
in our experience, we've done it on a couple of other projects, it's worked fairly well. But there's concern was raised by another commission member regarding the functionality of something similar to that. But as you can see from the existing drainage system getting into it, there's not much going there. So the potential for bypass isn't too much, but
Questions, concerns? Did we open it to the public last time? We did. Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this NOI? Second time and third time? Well, if it's the DOT's drainage, and they're not allowing anything that needs maintenance other than maybe a deep sump catch basin, what do we do at that point?
To me, I mean, this is self-imposed. I mean, they're taking it from
Right.
here and moving it back to, within 10 feet of a wetland. That's, to me, is not, to me, that's self-imposed.
Okay.
That's just my take on it.
Is it because it's their easement that the client can't put the infrastructure in?
Here's the email, I'll read it.
What if there was a condition to install that, but it would be up to the owner's responsibility to maintain it? Would the DOT look at that as a, because they're not gonna do
I
it.
see them doing that just because still if anything does happen, it's gonna end up on them
theirs,
taking
because
care of
they,
it.
yeah, that's what
Just
I'm
in my
thinking.
experience. And quite honestly, DOT probably has enough on their plate.
Right, I mean, they're not gonna maintain it themselves.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean, because they still have their easement and it's
it's technically within their rights to
It's
discharge on the
to
property.
do, yeah.
still something I'm not seeing here. That's an easement that's on the property of your client, correct?
Correct.
So it is your client's property. Why can't they install the storm scepter?
Because it's DOT's runoff, DOT's easement, and DOT's infrastructure. That's within the easement. That's their concern. Because as soon as we install this, we have essentially extended their system the extra 50
Right.
feet. So that's technically within their jurisdiction. Similar to as if we were to go down to Route 12, 190 intersection and start playing with their drainage system, it would be essentially the same concept, if you will.
What's the distance from the riprap that you're proposing, which is right on the edge of the wetland, to the street?
To the street?
Yeah.
We're looking at about 50 feet-ish.
So is not the DOT in violation in dumping all that sediment onto this client's property within 50 feet of a borderline vegetated wetland?
I don't know if they're exempt, because they're a
Because they're a public
state,
utility?
yeah, state municipality type thing, so.
Yet they would stand between this client and the protection of that wetland and forbid them from putting the storm scepter on their own property? Because they have an easement?
Well, they just don't want to maintain it or own it, that's the problem. Because even if, that's why it says if you went ahead and put it in and something happens, technically,
It's on them.
it's on them. Because it's their drainage system.
Couldn't your client sign a waiver to accept the responsibility of maintaining that?
I don't know. I doubt that'll fly, but I don't know.
No?
So my
could be
experience with
problems
working
later
at
on.
DOT, it probably wouldn't go over very
No.
well. They probably wouldn't accept it.
Right.
No, if the property changes hands or
Yeah,
anything,
it
it's
can get
just,
lost.
that wouldn't work. Does that email say anything?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I only made one copy because
Larry, has to take a look at that.
Just figured I'd look at it real quick.
Additional copies too.
same Chris will make copies.
Hold on, son.
Did you see that?
No.
Here.
Okay.
I guess that kind of says the answer's no.
Yeah, it's just
Just
literally
two
no,
letters
can't.
would have been fine. N-O.
Just give me the sentence.
Yeah, it's a one-sentence thing.
I mean, I still have the same concerns, though. I mean,
Right.
you're bringing it closer, 50 feet closer to the wetland and on top of the wetland, which is, that's not changing. And that's something that I
Mhm.
kind of was concerned about earlier. Because, I mean, that is ultimately the interest of the act, is to protect the wetland. And I think this is not doing that. I think it's, degrading the wetland, if anything, by adding sediment.
If we were to make the level spreader a little bit deeper, because right now it's at 6 inches, make it a foot, have it function more as a sediment forebay, if you will. Just, that's a little more of a substantial structure. We can raise the berm around this area, so it holds and has that capacity, a little bit extra, something along those lines. Even a forebay will provide the 25% TSS removal. But again, still wouldn't be much more than that.
I got a question. What is the size of the culvert, the pipe that you are proposing to install under that parking?
So currently it's an 18-inch RCP. We'll install an 18-inch RCP.
So it'd be the same.
Part of our conversations back when we were doing the preliminary layout of this was that that drain line has to be at the equivalent of its flow capacity.
Yeah.
So if it had a 10 CFS capacity, we have to make sure we hit 10 CFS.
I'm looking for an alternative.
Well, that's what I'm
Probably
thinking
do
at
you have
this
any
point.
ideas for an alternative
I don't
to
know.
suggest?
Would it be possible to take that 18-inch reinforced concrete pipe and angle it to the left of that drawing and circumvent your proposed building and then hook into the other one and move that other riprap over more towards the slope so we have more of a buffer towards the wetland?
You mean loop it around?
Right. I mean, why does it have to just go directly in there? Why can't it go around the proposed building? I don't know. Just a thought.
I mean, is
Now
this,
they're gonna have an easement around your whole property.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
again, now DOT's like, well, now we have our line actually extending through here, which at that point tells them that they have the potential for more failures if anything happens.
I thought of that too. I just wanted to just tie into there, but does the property owner want an easement through his entire property?
It wouldn't be their easement, though, would it?
It would
It
still,
would if it connects to
What's
the
the
drainage, it would all
language?
become
Oh,
theirs.
that's what the language states.
the language
As long
is
as it
to allow
connects.
for the discharge and maintain the
It's not
discharge.
an area on the lot that's the easement, no?
It's this easement right here. There's a defined box within the,
But if you left that defined area, it's no longer their easement.
but the discharge point from their existing drainage is still within that easement.
Right.
So that, by default, that can be easily argued that that easement right will extend. That's my fear for that.
Right.
Could you move, like, the end point of the discharge a little more into where the parking spots are, maybe, to get a little more buffer? I know it would,
you can
you lose some
the
parking.
foundation?
Yeah, when they were getting closer to the foundation, and we have to have a sidewalk to provide access to all the
Yeah.
parking. And right now, we already have the retaining wall, essentially the crown of the retaining wall and the sidewalk being pretty much right on top of each other.
Yeah.
So it's as far close as we can get, and to allow for emergency access for vehicles and
Yeah,
via planning.
And do you feel a deep sump would be sufficient, or if you made it a foot?
If we made the level spreader a little bit deeper, it would function more on the lines of a cement forebay. Still be classified as a level spreader, but it would at least have that extra capacity within the structure to allow for the sedimentation dropout. And if I remember correctly, sediment forebay, granted would be included within detention basins, also provides 25% TSS, which is the equivalent of a deep sump catch basin.
And maybe if you did that, maybe you put some sort of signage up that said, wetlands, you put
Yeah.
some wetland signage up so that, and if I go out and inspect and say, this needs to be maintained,
Cleaned out on
something
a
has
more
to be
quicker,
repaired.
regular basis. And I believe it's part of your standard order conditions
Yeah,
now to
standard.
include those signs along perimeters of work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe even something,
a little bit bigger.
I think, something a little bigger, just to put it there, so if someone notices something, they'll call the office. Or I can add it to my inspection list.
Just what you need.
I'm gonna close myself.
Larry, what's your thoughts when we have the biggest concern?
Yeah, I've had the same concern. I mean, I don't know that would be enough. I mean, I'm not, it's just, I think, nothing's changed since day one. And, I mean, as it looks right now, I mean, I can probably guess how I would vote for it, so.
Correct.
I don't know. I don't like this, the fact that they're taking that discharge. I mean, I understand you're trying to utilize the property, but this is completely self-imposed. There's, you chose to, the building size, the parking lot, you chose to build it to the point where you're basically on top of a wetland. And the discharge, has nowhere to go now. There has to be other alternatives. I don't know. I'm not an engineer to know what the best way to, do it, but I mean, I just see it in heavy, heavy rain, all the oil and everything is gonna wash right down along with the debris, and it's gonna go it's getting discharged 10 feet from a wetland, in a heavy rain, it's just gonna get carried right into that wetland. It doesn't have any opportunity, you know, it lost that buffer zone, that 50-foot buffer, to sort of slow down, you know, spread out, you know. Like, to me, I think it's gonna degrade the wetland, and I don't think meets, requirements of the act, personally.
Where does the driveway come into the property, the proposed drive?
Essentially right on top of that head wall.
Right on top of the head wall, and then it's gonna swing over to the right.
Yep, and I'll swing it further up.
So what if you gave up 4 of those parking spaces and made a different configuration of that head wall and pull that whole riprap section back another 20 feet, 30 feet? It's a different self-imposed idea. You just lose parking space. I don't know if you can live with that or not.
Currently, we're pretty much at the limit for parking. We only have 2 in access.
Yeah.
So reconfiguration of the parking is already tight because of the size of everything and the potential end use of the site.
Just looking for it.
Yeah.
So you're saying basically close off
He's saying
the
essentially,
easement.
Give up those 4 parking spaces and take the wall out of there,
So
make a
for-
different wall
yeah.
configuration to bring the whole thing back.
they had more of a curve to eliminate these 4 spaces a lot.
Right.
Spread to
Bring that back. Doesn't matter, I don't know.
You're at minimum parking right now?
Yes.
Going to a vote?
Could wait till next meeting.
Then we can wait.
I mean, if you wait till next meeting,
You have another
you know,
member?
yeah, that might benefit the applicant.
I'm not inclined to make a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
We can, yeah, I mean, we can make a motion, I'm not sure if it's gonna go in your favor. Yeah,
if you want to look into alternatives or, you know, improving the situation, next meeting, there's also, you know, more likely going to be another member.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Yep. We'll hold out for this additional member and review.
if
Any
there's something,
potential
if
alternatives.
there's something that you can think of that you haven't already, or,
Yeah, I've been trying to. Yeah, I've done my fair.
it's a very difficult site.
Yes.
And, you
It's
know,
tight.
I don't think moving the building is gonna,
No, unfortunately, the building is stuck where the building
Yeah.
is stuck. You know, using the retaining walls already, we're already
yeah.
making the site very difficult to construct. So,
all right. I mean, that's up to you if you want to continue until our next meeting, and
yeah, let me continue to the next meeting. See if I can come up with something a little more clever.
I mean, I know they were pretty emphatic, but I don't know. Maybe reach out to the DOT and see if they got
Some alternatives.
some alternative, or see, you know,
Yeah.
because at this point, you know, you're gonna be stuck, and then the answer may be no, and then, so.
Okay. Yeah. Let's continue with something.
All right, we'll continue the next meeting then. Thanks, Chris. When's the next meeting?
27th of November.
November 27th. Thank you. All right, our next continued hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended to be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent for Curtis Markey from Curtis Tree Service for the relocation of existing portable garage structures to the rear of the lot and the construction of a new garage building with associated site work, utilities, and drainage. A portion of the work will be within the 200-foot riparian zone of the Nashua River. The address is 158 Crawford Street, map 226, lot 15, DEP 199-1076.
Brian Marchetti with McCarty Engineering, here on behalf of Curtis Brownmarkle. So we continued the last hearing and went out and did a site visit a couple weeks ago. And a few of the members got to see the actual condition of the property. Based on a follow-up, it seems like there was still a little confusion about the drainage model and the cover types. I guess how it was modeled. And what I submitted as a revision was a little more detail about why the model was modeled the way it was, and what the results were. The physical drainage model wasn't changed. What happens is in existing conditions, the covers on the site is predominantly gravel instead of pavement. So the gravel has a curve number of 96, which is very similar to pavement, which is 98. So I expanded in the write-up the cover types and what the resultant curve numbers were, and then changed the write-up in the stormwater checklist as well as in the drainage report about the site not being a redevelopment only. It's a mix of new and redevelopment. The stormwater regulations state that if there's an increase in impervious area, it's not considered a redevelopment, it's new development. If there's a swap of some cover types, it's a mix of new and redevelopment, which is what the case is here. And the proposed development here includes the expansion of the pavement area. So this existing pavement line, which is back here, we're expanding it by 0.26 acres. However, 0.41 acres of the gravel is being eliminated and restored to pervious cover type. So when you look at the overall curve number, which in the drainage model is what tells the model how much runoff leaves the property, the curve number is being reduced. They do a weighted curve number based on all the cover types from an 87 curve number, which if you want to just put a quick common sense theme to it, 87% of the runoff would discharge. In proposed conditions, because of the reduction in gravel area and the creation of pervious area where the gravel used to be, our curve number is reduced to a 75. So when you're looking at the pre-post numbers, be it the runoff volumes and the peak flow volumes, in all conditions, the proposed site has less runoff and less peak flows and volumes than the existing conditions. So if you look through the stormwater regs, it says a certain number of the standards need to be met. DEP reviewer questioned the recharge number. Well, the recharge number does need to be mitigated if there's an increase in impervious area in order to account for the loss of recharge that's occurring. Well, the reduction in the curve number from an 87 to a 75 already significantly reduces the amount of runoff leaving the site. So there's nothing to mitigate. We're already significant. There's already a lot more recharge that's happening on the property, and our peak flows are already reduced by a significant amount. So there is nothing to recharge. That's why it just seems to be not a misunderstanding, but kind of a misunderstanding of reading the model and how it's set up and what it's actually doing out there. So I expanded on that. I changed the checklist. I changed the write-up to say a mix of new and redevelopment. And I explained in here about the reduction in the curve number, how it reduces the peak flows and volumes and increases the recharge. So it should be more clear about the condition pre and post. And I also want to point out that town engineers reviewed this with me, and I specifically knew this was kind of going to be a question because it's not a typical development situation. And they both agreed with the methodology and how it was done. So in my mind, the revision has addressed the concern about the cover types. It is a mix and new redevelopment, so I've added that in the write-up. And then the final concern at the last meeting was about having a new point source discharge at the outlet downstream of our storm scepter. And we did change that to reflect a preform scour hole. So it's designed based on Massachusetts DPW standards. Mass DOT doesn't have any specific guidelines on how to size them, but Connecticut has a very detailed methodology with charts and tables, which is what we use in Massachusetts all the time. So we use the same methodology to size this based on the size of the outlet pipe. And in essence, it's what was proposed in the previous project. That was just before you. It's a riprap plunge pool, so there's a half a foot based on the size of the pipe, which is 12 inch. It's 6 feet long, 5 feet wide, and it has a half foot depth storage volume, which slows the flows as it comes out of the pipe before it discharges down to the adjacent reservoir area. And one thing I'd like to point out is we have, here's the 200-foot repairing line here. So we have about 220 feet of vegetative growth before it gets to the Nashua River. So there's a significant buffer between the existing discharge and where we'll ultimately end up. This set of plans, as you see it with the riprap plunge pool, was presented to the planning board last week, a couple weeks ago, and they did vote to approve and close the project. So, if there are any further questions?
Is there a maintenance schedule on the plan, or is it?
It's not on the plan, but there is a separate O&M plan in the drainage analysis.
Okay.
That's part of the record, which does include maintenance of all structures.
Okay.
You got a question, or?
The revisions that you have, Brian, have those been forwarded to the DEP?
Nothing's been sent to DEP yet. No. Just I have copies of the plans here. I sent Angela the drainage write-up and the revisions. These are the two plans that changed from what was submitted before. The 4 copies.
Now, you mentioned increase in pervious area.
Yes.
How did you increase it? Because when I was on site, it looked like we were going to decrease it. So
This tree line back here that you see
okay.
is the limit of basically the toe of that slope. Now, underneath that wood chip pile, like that wood chip pile is recent. That's not something that's been there for 10 years. That's something that's been there probably just for the last year or two. This whole site, if you look at the record, go back and Google Earth over the years, it's been just a gravel surface all the way back. This was just recently spread after the airport came through and did all their clearing. This was all just a hard, compacted gravel, and that's how it was modeled, and you can verify that.
Right.
So if
Yeah,
you-
I heard that before.
Yeah, and if you, it was a thick mat. I know we walked on it, you felt it was squishy. If you dig deep enough, it's probably a good 6 inches. That's all just a hard, compacted gravel underneath that. recent.
So by pulling that,
So this will all be pulled out. Everything you saw, those wood chips,
right,
it's all gonna be dug up.
right.
All the ground's gonna be dug up. It can be,
So-
we're proposing wood chips, but it can be, the whole bank can be loam and seasoned and covered in wood chips, so, the cover type, it is gonna retain moisture, it is gonna retain the water. It's not just gonna flow through the chips and run out.
Right. So basically that pre-existing tree line is going to go back to whether it's vegetated or whatever.
Yes.
Instead of that previous hard pack gravel.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where you're increasing your pervious. Okay.
Yes, and I only model where you see here, to the Sabian line.
Yeah.
So the drainage model only covers what's inside there. So I didn't change the cover type of this,
Okay.
but, you know, it's all wood chips and mulch now. We can stay that way. You know, we're trying to limit the impact within the riparian zone, so we didn't just keep chasing it back. It's outside of the limit we needed in order to create.
Questions? Do you have any questions?
Right. So I know right now there's a giant pile of wood chips. Would that be like one of the first steps to be taking the wood chips out?
Yeah, it has to be, because that's all within
Yeah.
the building footprint area. And we can't fill, you know, especially underneath the
Can't
building,
do
it's got to be
anything there
hard
until you
structural fill underneath it. So this entire site is going to be stripped.
So that would all come out first.
And we can certainly include in the conditions of maintenance or inspection schedule or, you know, benchmarks before we do certain things if the commission or the agent wants to come out and see it before the work's done. I believe McCarty, I think we're doing work ourselves too, so, you know, we're here in front of you presenting it, we know what needs to be done, you tell us what needs to be done.
That's all your plan to do too.
Yeah, yeah. We're not going anywhere, so.
Just one last comment. It's a very tight site, and I think, you know, by using the you know, all around here, you know, having the wood chips and everything is great. I don't want to see it. I'd like to see something in there that prevents that space from getting paved over, you know, 5 years from now. You know, sort of like just something in there that says any further development of the site would have to come before the commission. It's standard anyway, but
Yeah.
just something that we're recognizing that it's a sensitive area, so that future commissions will, you know,
understand.
it might be raise a flag if suddenly they go out there and it's paved from edge to edge, you know, by another property owner.
And I think by nature of this design, you know, we have a hard edge of pavement. There's a hard limit and a steep slope. Then we have a building, and then property line right at the edge of pavement. So we're basically creating a barrier here where we can't expand.
Yeah.
There's really going to be no opportunity for expansion beyond it without demoing another building. And
Yeah.
You're going to be a large project.
Yeah, we've seen when people just go into other people's properties.
yeah,
And-
and we were bound by a fence. It's
Yeah.
over here, and there's a fence
Yeah,
on the trailer side.
it doesn't stop some property, you know, so it could be a future property owner, it's not, nothing about this property owner.
Yeah, no, understood. Certainly.
Can't remember, are those permanent structures?
So this is it's a portable garage.
Okay.
But it's a structural, it's huge. It's set up on blocks. That's going to be moved over here.
Okay.
And then this is a permanent
That's
building.
permanent, okay.
Yep. So this building here is what's being moved over here.
Okay.
You got permanent going after regular foundation, the whole.
It's, I believe, it's a big block.
Oh, okay.
It's a big, like 6 foot by 3 by 3 concrete block.
Any other comments?
Yeah. Is there a way that we can remove wood chips and/or mulch as a final cover and go with some type of low bush vegetation? I have, you know, I know wood floats, and I just have a fear that with the kind of rains we get today, for example, is not going to get any better. That there's going to be a migration problem down that hill.
We can certainly propose whatever
That's what I'd
suits
like
your
to see for
needs.
a cover, so that we don't have to deal with the issue down the road.
Now, what type of low bush? Like looks like a wildlife seed mix or actual?
Something that wouldn't require a lot of maintenance, just something to stabilize the soil and, you know, just be vegetated.
So it'd be low too, because you don't want that thing to come in.
But, yeah, you don't want the airport to be affected.
Certainly, we just propose wood chips because it's readily available to the owner, and
Yeah.
you know they do work well. If it's a concern to you, I mean, the way we've designed the site now, I'm really not worried about flow down the slope because everything is pitched back inside. Right now, everything from Crawford Street runs down across the full site, channelizes and goes through. But right now, everything's draining in. So the only flow that we're going to have on the slope is physical rain that falls on it.
Right.
So it's really, it's significantly reduced from what's the current situation. if that's it's gonna be a sticking point, we're more than happy to change what we propose. And I can certainly be added to the issue.
Any other comments or questions? Open to the public? Anybody in the audience like to speak on this notice of intent? Second time and third time. All right. Any objections to closing the hearing? Do I have a motion?
I'm just gonna throw something out there.
Sure.
That comment that I had, everything that I'm looking at is actually outside of our jurisdiction, so I'm not even gonna, it's not really even something we should, really have to worry about too much. All this area over here, that's out of
Right,
our
it's out of
jurisdiction, so there's no
jurisdiction.
point in even putting it in the
So the majority of it would just really just be that slope
Yeah.
and that finish
Yeah.
grading there.
You can even use little wood chips and like some sort of wildflowers or combination if they need to use the product.
Even if they did kind of rows, row of some, what's that?
Blueberries.
Well, it's yeah. Like even a row of something at the top and then midway down or something.
Why is somebody gonna go pickle and make me a blueberry pie?
Something like
No, I mean, that was my
Maybe.
thought. You could use the chips kind of after the fact, after like some sort of a mulch mixed in with
Yeah.
the bushes. You know what I mean? Something like that
That's fine.
Just gonna use it, and then you also have some vegetation there.
to hold it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, do I have a motion for issuing an order of conditions with some of your?
I'll make a motion for a standard order of conditions to include our boilerplate. Also, attached to the order, I'd like to see the maintenance schedule for the riprap slope there, the path.
Inspection after the wood chips are up,
Okay.
and then vegetated slope.
Vegetated slope. Okay. Do I have a second on that motion or something different?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're playing blueberry bushes, I'd expect a blueberry pie and blueberry
For every
pancakes.
single job site in Leominster, the more blueberries, the better.
Right here when they're ready. Over the gate.
Literally lots of inspections.
You're gonna get it.
Thank you.
Watch me.
That's on the right side of the door.
Any issues with me moving around the agenda a little bit?
None at all.
All right. The Hill Street Conservation Management Area.
Thank you.
Mrs. Sumner from I'm assuming from the Park and Recs Department, discussed a map on area and ideas on how to assimilate it with other areas of the city. I'm assuming trails and stuff like that.
So most of the conservation areas and trails in the city have a very generalized map, very similar look. They have the large map with the whole city on it and the different trails on it that all connect them, or it shows where they all are in location to each other. Mr. O'Brien's concern was that the Hill Street one would be different. We did the Google Maps site with all the different things involved in it, and they were concerned. They really had hoped to kind of make everything look similar. So what me and Mrs. Sumner had talked about on Halloween was how can we kind of do both. And an idea was that we have two sides of the map. We can put one map on one side of the kiosk, one map on the other side of the kiosk. But there wasn't some concerns that as more houses are built in that area, the cost of taking down the maps with the for the mass wildlife with the circles on it and replacing them. So an idea I had for that would be to utilize the smaller kiosks there for that, and because I could just go out and print out something and hang it up and lock it whenever I see a house, the only thing is that we might have to put some sort of legal wordage that, the city is not responsible, just in case, because I do know there are a couple houses being built there that are out of our jurisdiction. The only reason I know about them is because there's stormwater issues there. But there's also a couple other lots that are for sale up there that where, if, for example, they built their house on one end of the property and then end up building a shack or, some sort of he shed in the back where they may be sleeping, it could alter the 500 foot. Most likely that wouldn't be an issue, but that was just a concern. We don't want to, I think the commission has discussed that concern where we don't want to say, here's the barrier, here's as far as you can go. Another idea was to even just extend it to 700 feet, just to kind of give them the extra buffer and just put it in the verbiage, just like on all the other, for example, the Elm Street signage says, it doesn't even say anything about the residential laws for the Granite Street. I don't know the exact verbiage off the top of my head, but it does say, all the other hunting laws because it is a hunter's responsibility. But where that would be, we could also put in, 700 foot, any residence or dwelling.
I don't know if we can enforce, we don't have any jurisdiction to enforce anything other than what's mandated by the state or federal government.
Yeah, we don't have it, but if you could put up on the sign, just, as a recommendation.
Yeah.
That was the idea. She's getting the map that I have out to her consultant that she has that makes all of the GIS maps for the city.
Okay.
I believe that she was on vacation for a week, so I still haven't gotten anything back. But that's where I left it off with her.
Okay. Yeah, I like the idea of keeping the signage very uniform, especially with it being trails and all this other stuff. I think we could use that kiosk to
I could just take up
supplement.
that secondary
Just a
one,
supplement to actually
definitely,
so it's easier to change. It's not going to cost us $800 every
Well, that's what I'm
couple
saying,
years
you
to
can
change the
just,
sign.
you could print a new map, laminate it, hang it up in there, lock it.
Yeah.
You could add anything else in that little kiosk that we wanted to do. Yeah, because their signs basically is the whole city with all the trails.
Yeah, and then they usually have something, on the other side it's a little bit smaller, but
Yeah, because on the front of their sign has all the different rules and activities, all the little symbols, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So it'll kind of all be similar, and then we'll also be able to kind of, work with the residents in the area.
Right. Okay.
And then one idea that we kind of bounced back and forth was, because I do know the issue, the concerns about the big white signs would be if we wanted to move the little kiosk over more so that when people are, because I think the idea where the big kiosk is, it might block the smaller kiosk, maybe to move it over. I'm not sure how hard that would be to move it, but
I think the city's moved it more than once.
I don't know the exact.
No, but I think the sign
Yeah,
got
I think
just
it's, we can just move the little one farther up
That's
so
what I'm
it's
saying.
easier to see.
Right.
One thing when we're talking about signs, a couple things that I thought of. We there was an issue brought up by the residents about that drainage swale towards
Yes.
View Farm or Lost Acre Farm, Lost View Farm.
Yes.
The other thing is DPW has been going up there to, to do the cutting and everything. So I think when we consider the parking, I think it should go to the left so that we leave that lane open for DPW.
Right. So they can get up there. And
So they can
maintain
get up there, and that drainage swale that the residents were talking about, being concerned with, changing the water flow, it wouldn't happen because we could leave that. You would just have to move the parking closer to the left.
Okay, so when I was up there, it looked like the drainage swale was more to the left side of the property. It's closer to the Flynn's residence.
I think so.
So
No,
it'd be
to the right. Well, like if you're looking at it, it's closer to the Lost View Farm.
No, it's to the left, right, closer to
Is
your
it?
property, not to Mr.
Yeah,
David's.
but it all goes into one of our property,
Yeah,
it's under the road.
The water comes off Hill Street, goes into the swale. The water also comes down from the conservation property into the swale. If you're standing at the street looking at the left side, closer to 178, there's also some water that is like some sort of old uncapped well or something that bubbles over. So the water starts thin on the right side and builds up to that left side. That's why it's pitched that way. So, and it's also it was built much steeper on the left side because it needs to catch the water that's coming down from where the kiosk is now. So, I mean, I've seen, cars sometimes pull in and actually bottom out if they're like on the middle, well, just a little bit left. It's just too steep to pull in where that right side where the kiosk now, it's kind of, you see it, it's more flat up there, so.
I just don't want to block the DPW's access, and that's my big thing. And it's a fire thing. I know they have fire roads to access woods and stuff like that. I think
The fire roads are all labeled by the fire
Yeah,
department.
but I mean-
but I did speak to the DPW about, their ideas on this. I actually met with Mr. Roseberry, the senior engineer for the city and the site. He wasn't too worried about the swell. Like, he's like, and his opinion is, you're not going to see 25 cars here parked on a rainy day.
Right.
He's like, it's not going to cause too much damage to it. But after talking to Mr. Clark, who does most of the cutting up there for us, he said the machinery he has, he can literally park parallel on the side of the road and drive it off and around, and there's plenty of space for him to kind of get around up there. So even if there was a car blocking that direct view, he would be able to kind of move it around. Because I asked him if he wanted me to put a cone there the other day, and he said he's fine.
Well, I was just thinking, because we talked about putting in like some sort of like possibly like a untreated telephone pole, like a log kind of thing. So if we start to put in something to define the space,
We want to make sure it's in
we don't want them to be driving on. I'd rather see a clear path that.
Yeah, we
DPW
can definitely make
knows.
that, the defined space farther away from that, but they just, they weren't too concerned about the swell or that, because it's not like it's gonna be cars sitting there for days and then sinking into the ground, disturbing the ground. It's gonna be someone there for a couple hours.
Okay.
Just so you know, that left side, it's really, really mushy up there for quite a bit of time, so you may have
Yeah, we can bring crushed stone
people
or something
and
to take care of
vehicles sinking in. I mean, it's that stuff you're walking, it takes your shoes off.
Yeah, we can put crushed stone or something if we had to, if it became an issue.
Yeah, they do.
All right, so
So I think
we're waiting on Mrs. Sumner for
signage.
short signage plan.
Yes, and then CTEI, either they will be building the kiosk or Mr. O'Brien will be building the kiosk. I believe if the schools do it, may not be ready until the spring, but Mr. O'Brien may be able to get done sooner. He's just been very busy down in the Cape, so.
Do we know if there's costs involved with either of those?
It would go through the Park and Rec, because they do get part of their budget for trails.
Oh, okay. Even better.
Very much appreciated.
Even better.
We're
Okay.
all in this together.
Yeah, I think, of course, this is the commission's decision, but I think going forward, I think that's a pretty good plan of keeping the regular sign. We use the kiosk for site-specific,
Yeah.
and we'll move them all together and I think do what we did originally.
Yeah. We might even, the CTEI has a drafting program. They might even be able to draw up, the site
Yeah,
and put where the
Right,
kiosks will go and where the,
Yeah, I
like
think
that
that's
might
what
be
they,
a
that's
project
actually a
for,
pretty good idea, yeah.
I think that's what
get
they do
the kids
through.
involved. But they might be able to get involved with, helping design the parking area,
Little site plan, yeah.
I'll reach out to the gentleman I spoke to and see what they can do. The next question I had is, do you guys want me to go put a sign inside the mini kiosk now? Because I do know, I've gotten quite a few calls about hunting season and where hunting is allowed in Leominster.
I have no problem, again, commission step in is we have that map from the state there, your thing. Print it as clear as you can, laminate. I always say that just in case it gets wet, but yeah, you could definitely hang it. At least it gives anybody that is up there saying this is of as of today, this is of known 500 foot buffers from any house that currently exists. So if someone has any questions or any issues, you know what I mean? And I would just stick it in that kiosk. Do we have a key to the kiosk? Or is it actually locked?
Probably is a lot.
I might have one from like 10 years ago.
I was like, I've been cleaning out the closet. I haven't found any keys yet, but if not, I can work with the handyman for City Hall, or I can get a handyman from
Yeah, let me look at it. It might even have it in my glove box. I think
Okay.
at one time we had like copies made for everybody on the commission, I think, a copy
Oh.
of the key.
Cool.
So,
I'll do that this week.
Yeah, I
And
think
then-
that would be good to,
Did you want to take down the signs that are up there? Because I do know DPW had asked me about that.
what signs are still up there? The no
hunting
parking
this
signs and the no
entrance,
hunting
yeah.
signs.
no, I wouldn't take them down until we have that
The
other
new
sign.
kiosk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
But we should vote on that if we're gonna. do we
Well,
have
the
to
no
vote?
parking signs could be.
to what, to hang,
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I do believe
into the
they moved
kiosk?
they're going to move the no parking sign
kind of make it
over.
official, but I don't think it really matters. I mean,
All right.
that's what I think. I mean,
Yeah, I
we're
don't know
just,
how that works.
we're just putting in a informational sign for hunters if they happen to go up there. So,
Yeah.
and we can have a vote if I make it official, but.
I just said I had a gentleman call the other day and ask about the area, if he could park there, and I said, you are allowed to park there, you have to follow the rules. He's like, what about the signs? And I'm like, that's in discussion right now, with the commission, so I'll get back to you when I have an answer.
Okay.
Because he doesn't want to obviously have his car towed or, have an issue.
Right. And he was up there specifically for hunting?
Not yet, he's just calling
Oh,
for
he's just calling to
information,
find out
to find out
where he
information where he
can
can
and
and can't go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you want to have a vote on, what do we want to put in that kiosk today? I mean, obviously, I think that fish and
The Mass
wildlife,
Wildlife.
you know. And if you want, I would definitely, if you have anything that shows like the rules of hunting. I mean, every hunter that's
I have a very
licensed,
Yeah,
basic
you know,
list.
like 500 feet,
I have a list
loaded
that's on
weapons
the Mass
on, you
Wildlife
know.
website,
Yeah.
that most signs
I would definitely
display.
post those two inside the kiosk. It's not gonna hurt anything at this point.
No.
It might actually educate some people that might, sounds like this guy fortunately is actually looking to do the right thing, but,
Yeah.
so. Do I have a motion?
One quick question.
Yeah.
Do we still have no parking signs though? Is that, or is it?
That's why I asked. I don't know.
I'm gonna go out there and double check and make sure it's moved, but I did talk to, the gentleman who does the signs for the city. He was going to move it over
Okay.
in front of the other property,
Because the
so.
counselor said that wasn't a city sign, there's no ordinance that says no parking on Hill Street, so.
From my understanding, Mr. Bob Grodesky, who works in the office, and he's lived in Leominster for his whole life, said that was kind of, like Mr. Van said, that was in his lover's lane, they kind of just put the signs up. So it would be very easy for them to just kind of move it over, just so people know that they can park there.
That's my concern, is
That's what a lot of people are calling me, like, oh, can we park there, can we not park there? I'm like, yeah, you can, you're fine, you're not gonna get towed.
it just sends a mixed message, that's all.
Yeah, I agree, it's
Right.
confusing.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, why don't we, do I have a motion for, make sure that that parking sign gets moved or taken down? We'll leave up the white hunting signs and we'll add the map and hunting rules to the kiosk as it sits now until we can get the other signage and stuff.
But the white signs are gonna stay
Until we get the big,
until we get the overall.
yeah, until we get the, because
Okay.
on the town sign, it specifies there's a whole hunting section on the
Yeah.
town sign.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
what Angela had showed us. so.
Yeah, okay, I just saw it.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
good.
I'll make a motion to request to have the parking sign moved off of the conservation frontage, to insert a map with the hunting rules in the existing kiosk, and to hold off on removing the white signs until the secondary kiosk is installed.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor? All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The no parking sign, is it just gonna be removed? Because there is a no parking sign further down
Yeah, I
the
think
street.
where it is, it's about 10 feet. It's not really in front of where the parking area will be specifically. So I think if they move it over 10 feet, it'll be more in front of the deeper part of the swale is my idea. So if they put it in front of, like, right there, right on the property line, I'm gonna talk to the sign guy and see where he wants to move it, but we're just gonna move it over, if you're looking at the property to the right.
Yeah, it should be off the frontage though.
Yeah, she must have been off the frontage.
And there has been a lot of interest about this subject in the neighborhood. Is there any type of, like, neighborhood abutters? I know that, or I thought there was something where whenever you made changes of this magnitude, you had to notify all the abutters in the neighborhood for, you know, the proposal as to what's going on, so people could kind of have an idea. I mean, they were asking me a lot of questions, and they look at the agendas here, and
Basically, there is no rules or laws that says we have to notify them. That's why it's a public hearing. It's open to the public, so if you're interested, as you guys have come to many, many meetings.
Yeah.
But there's no official, rules or laws that says, hey, we're gonna make a change, we need to notify the abutters, unless I'm wrong.
I don't believe there is. It's not a wetland area. It's not a large commercial building being put in. It's just we're adding to the kiosks.
Right, so.
well, I know a lot of people are watching the agenda because the hunting issue is a big deal, so you may want to put it on the agenda so people don't come back after the fact, kind of like it did once before, and say, why wasn't this a public meeting that we could have done?
Okay. Yeah, any time, all of our meetings are open to the public, so that's how we get our information out, so.
Yeah, but we did have an issue one time where they came down without it being on the agenda, so I would recommend you might want to put it on the
Well,
agenda.
it's on the meeting.
If you-
It's on the agenda.
What's
Hill
that?
Street Conservation Area it's been a line item on our agenda.
Right, but at one point it was broken out by different commodities, so that's what they're looking for, is to see if the hunting, whenever that comes up, they have interest, so.
I mean, at this point, all we're doing is putting up the hunting sign. It says, it shows the map of the neighborhood, which was what the neighbors asked for.
We're not taking down the other signs. I know everyone's very concerned about. Once the new kiosk, once that is more underway, we have an actual timeline for that. That will be on the agenda in the discussion, and I'll put in, I can put it on the agenda, date, discuss date to take down
Right.
other signs.
Right.
It's not happening like tomorrow. It's just tomorrow I may go out there and
I'm
put the
just,
other sign.
concerned, as you know, and trying to keep you guys out of harm's way wherever we can.
Okay. All right.
When's your next meeting?
November 27th.
Yep. And, at this point, because it's getting so late in the year and signs, I mean, nothing's probably gonna happen until the spring, when it comes to our new sign. I can't imagine the trade school's gonna wanna dig a hole in January up there, so, new signs and stuff like that's probably not gonna get put in, because we don't even have them built yet, so that's probably not gonna happen until like the springtime.
If you,
Will there eventually be a diagram of where the parking is actually going to go? I mean, we keep saying in front of the tree, now you're shifting it
Yeah, that's what
this way, and
Yeah, that's what Larry was just talking about, is maybe, we might have asked the trade school to kind of maybe do like a, as you see here, we ask everybody to give us a site plan. We own the property, so we have to have somebody do it for us. But
I
yeah.
actually talked to the building commissioner. He basically told me that because we're not actually putting like asphalt down or any drainage in, that we could literally, just draw up
Yeah.
an idea. He's like, we're not really adding anything to there. We're not
Right.
we're just thinking it would be a way
to
to,
be presented.
yeah, it might be a good project for like a high school
good
student.
learning experience.
Yeah.
Right, and that way it's kind of a plan, and, we'll figure out where can we put our 4 or 5 parking spaces so it's out of the swale, out of the right of way, for the deep, kind of that kind of thing, and decide, okay, we're gonna put the sign here and there and make it so it's nice and clean. So that'll happen at some point, and that may be kind of during the winter is what I'm imagining, between now and,
It kind of depends on their, their schedules.
yeah, so.
I would say too, I mean, at this point, I don't think we're gonna do anything until, I mean, if
Until I
you
have
can
an
get,
update or.
if you can get like some contact, emails or something, when this comes up, when we have the sign,
Yeah.
and we wanna present it, we can have a formal Hill Street Conservation sign, sort of. meeting.
Right,
That way, Pete, you don't have to come to every meeting between now.
because we might just be talking about, hey, we talked to this guy and
Yeah.
he said, we're gonna move the parking spots 2 feet. You know, do you wanna sit here for all night to listen to us do that? And, you know,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's gonna be no parking lot built or designed between now and, the springtime. There's gonna be no activity on the property other than right now, we're proposing putting up that sign that everybody was concerned that there'd be a sign that showed the homeowners' houses and the circle around it, which is like that safety zone required, by the state with the firearms. So that we're putting up that sign.
And the only reason I brought that up is because I've gotten a couple calls in the past couple weeks just about hunting from hunters and where they can hunt in the city, and I don't want to not have that information up there if someone's gonna be up there hunting.
so. But yeah, we have no problem putting it when, we have an official sign that says, hey, this is the sign we're gonna do. We're gonna take down white signs, we're gonna move white signs, we're gonna do, we can put that right on the agenda. That's fine to inform people, but this is the best avenue to get information. And if anybody has any questions to come, this is by far the best and easiest way, other than getting a letter that says, hey, we're gonna put up a sign. Because then you'd have to call Angela and this and that, so. All right, moving on to certificates of compliance. 199-1062, 567 Pierce. Is there grass growing, Angela?
So, I did go out to the sites. I actually, after the last meeting, called the contractor. I did not hear anything from him. So I did go out to the site to do a site visit after a heavy rain and to see how the site was holding up. It looks like the property was purchased. There are people living there. They have an occupancy permit, and the DEP signs are down. I have a whole. So I contacted the contractor again, to tell you don't have a certificate of compliance. The DEP sign needs to be up until you have that, as well as the erosion controls are still in, but they're not adequate. So here's, after not getting a response from him, I did send out this packet of information to the new homeowners. I haven't gotten a return receipt yet, so I don't know if they haven't received it. I have to call the post office. Sometimes they make me have to force second time. But I do send it certified mail, and then I also send a packet non-certified mail, so they most likely have gotten it. They probably just are in discussion maybe with their lawyers or their real estate agents. In the back of the packet is the pictures from my most recent site visit out there.
How's the grass look?
It's growing, it's sparse. My main concern is that there is silt and debris in the brook. I actually found a salamander in a pile of silt.
See it.
Yeah.
It's what, Fred?
So we need to send them that, if there's something.
Yeah, and that looks like, so when I got out there, the only reason I found that was because I had fallen and I disrupted some of the leaves and some hay, and noticed that what I think happened is that the contractor just kind of covered it up.
Okay.
So I wanted to give the new homeowners a chance to kind of remediate, because they obviously did not know, probably did not know what's going on.
Right.
So I wanted to have a conversation with them first before I went to the full enforcement route to hopefully educate them properly. I also noticed that the wetland placards are not up on site, and where the dump truck was still disturbed. Nothing's growing in there. So it took me quite a while to find all the information to send out to the new homeowners, because they aren't on the GIS database yet, so I had to work at the assessor's office and get everything from their office. So I would like to give them a couple more days to kind of respond and give me a phone call before I go to the whole official enforcement route, just an act of good faith.
Did you send that certified?
I sent it certified, and I also sent one uncertified. So because what I find happens is that people are at work, they don't get certified mail.
Right.
So at least.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I definitely see some issues still as it has been, so.
Yeah.
I'm not inclined to issue a COC, but we definitely want to,
And
you know, I appreciate you reaching out to the homeowners, kind of saying,
yeah,
This is
I
what's
like
going
to
on, just-
highlight everything in the
because
order
they're-
of conditions for them.
unfortunately, they now own the problem.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they could still go back, I'm assuming, as a person who's built a couple houses in the city, they still have time to go back to the developer or the contractor and say,
And that's
hey.
why I want to give them time to, kind of remediate whatever situation they need to remediate before I go.
And at this point, I mean, we're not gonna get any more growth, so.
I'm more concerned just getting the stilts out of front.
Right. Right, but I mean, we have some time, nothing's gonna change, so.
One question I did have, since there's a new homeowner, in order to get a certificate of compliance, do they need to reapply for it since, I think this one's for Mr. Van Dyke?
That I don't know.
I don't know if they already know the
I don't know all the
answer,
rules.
because he hasn't contacted me or returned any of my phone calls or emails.
Oh, I'm sure he's got his check, he's good. I don't know, I would assume they would have to reapply.
We can't issue it to them, we can only issue it to the person that applied.
So would they be able to
They'd have to reapply.
reapply, so we
It's
could deny
filling
this
out the
one?
form, yeah.
Deny, if the
Two-page
commission,
form.
the commission could deny this one and then have them refill out another form, and could we just use the same as-built? Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just want to, try and work
Basically
with.
just change the name, have them sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think they would have to do it, because it's now their property,
Yeah.
so.
I just wanted to make sure I had it right.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we have to like issue it to the person that made the request.
Yeah, so I think at
And
this
then-
point, if he's not being responsive, he's probably left the property, so I don't know what we do with this 8A form, what the commission would want to do with that. If it's already, in someone else's name, does the commission, sorry, I apologize, does the commission vote to deny it and ask the new homeowner to, once everything's remediated, to reapply?
I would think that'd be the right
Well, we
way
just,
to go.
Or just leave it and,
I know we have so many, what's the time, well, there's a time limit for us to act on it, but because they haven't met the conditions, I guess we can keep going until they meet the.
Right.
yeah, and then it's like with the Tesla site, I believe
Right.
it was continued for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Right.
But I would have to have them fill out a new 8A form. So
Right,
yeah.
would it be a whole new certificate?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
we'd have to get rid of the certificate.
but they can include the as-built and all that. They just
Yeah.
fill that 2-page
Okay.
form.
Just keep us in the loop, see what the homeowners get to
I
say.
mean, it's not gonna be till spring to like.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like, we got some.
Well, they're going to have to remove the silts and everything before that.
Yeah,
so
right.
And the hay bales are, right.
I
But we have to
I
make
wrote
sure.
that those need to be readjusted and
Yeah.
When does the order of conditions expire?
The house got
I-
built
I-
pretty
it's-
quickly, I think.
It did.
order of conditions is in there, so I don't have it off the top of my head. It's 3 years. I think that was issued in 2017.
No, say, it wasn't that long ago.
February
Looking it up on that
2017, I
site,
want to
yeah.
say.
So. Okay.
You probably find it faster than I would.
No,
I'm like getting there, but
that's all right. I know it's pretty new.
I don't see people where it says that.
December 20th, 2017.
I said February.
So we got plenty of time.
Yep.
Okay. Keep us in the loop. Extension permits. None, it looks like. Any new communications we need to know about?
Hold on a second. So I did a site visit today to Royal Oaks Lot 12 to, I think it's going to be 3 Royal Oaks Way, over by Old Tavern. I was actually in the area, so I just popped by to do a site inspection. When I was on the inspection, I did notice that a lot of the hay bales that were lining the driveway, they've been hit by a truck, and there was some turbid water. It's very difficult. The water just looks very dirty. It's very hard to see how much got in, because it could just be a little bit dirty and make the whole cup of water dirty. The gentleman, the manager of the excavating company was on site, so I discussed it with him. He didn't notice that they had hit the the hay bales and erosion, so they're gonna have that fixed tomorrow morning. They're gonna have their environmental consultant come out tomorrow as well and take a look and see how much silt got in, how much needs to be removed. From what I saw, there was like a couple shovels full that just made the whole area murky. So my advice was let it settle, see how much is there, and take it out. They're gonna get done and have a meeting with them at 11 a.m. tomorrow
Perfect.
to see the situation. And then 138 Old Tavern Road, I spoke to the homeowner. He's having a couple issues with his contractor, and he has a sewer permit with the one contractor for the driveway and the sewer. Unfortunately, that gentleman is not able to do the removal and the silt fencing and straw wattles. So he had to contact another contractor, but unfortunately that contractor does not want to do that unless he gets the driveway and the sewer. So he's working with DPW to see if he can transfer the sewer permit, or if he has to go back and pay money and reapply for it. I was under the impression he already put new erosion controls in. I got out there, it looked like he just kind of propped them up with the green fence, like chicken wire fence stakes. I don't think it's adequate. So that was at 3:30 this afternoon. So I'm gonna give him a call tomorrow and tell him he needs to get someone out there.
There's a company in a farmer in Fitchburg that does hay bales, and I think he even installs them.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to recommend anyone or give.
Well, I know, but
names,
if he just looks at
There's
it.
people out there. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
recommend that you
that's-
look in the phone book because you're not for an engineer or contracting company,
and
but just
he's working with Whitnam and Bingham as an engineer company. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna give Brian a call tomorrow as well and kind of discuss it with him, see if he can kind of help his client in the right direction, because I do know they are working on the new notice of intent for the driveway as well. And then I also received a forest cutting plan and notice of intent for 585 Pierce Street. That's the property next to 567 Pierce Street. The DCR did approve it. There will be one wetland crossing on the property, but the DCR will be handling the inspections. They did, Mr. Downey invited me to come along as well for any concerns that happen throughout the project.
That one's the old one, is that not?
Yes, that's the Puretti's. Yeah, Puretti's house. The Moose Knock River, I did receive some pictures from Mr. Colombo today of the river, and I did go out to the site. I called Michelle Nadeau, sorry. I need some more coffee tonight. Just to kind of see where it is, and right now they're just trying to see if it's, there's a, kind of discussion going on. We were given two options. Which option is the better option to do, I guess? If it's a complete risk of public safety, you would do if you do the Band-Aid, that Band-Aid will have to last 10 to 15 years, which it might or might not last. So after seeing the pictures, I did talk with Mark Marini, one of the engineers for the city, and he's going to investigate it further, and he's going to give Woodard and Curran a call as well to kind of see what they think, because we weren't expecting this crazy rain. But in his opinion,
It rains every day.
I know, it's been a bad season. But he did say that when he was out there, and I got there, it did look like the retaining wall riprap was secure.
Okay.
I did go around and check all the different catch basins, and they are all flowing. I did notice if you're standing looking down the way towards QT's, it does look like part of the wall down there has, where the tunnel is, has kind of fallen out, but I'm not sure if that was older. It's a very small piece of stone, but this committee's gonna look into it and kind of see what we can do.
Tunnel on the right-hand side of the culvert.
Yeah, going towards Mechanic Street. It's a small piece, probably like a foot. It doesn't look like, I'm not a structural engineer, but it doesn't look like it's gonna hurt that structure. Looking at where the riprap and the Jersey barriers are, that looks secure to me. It is going over it, but they said they put enough in there where it would take quite a flood to wash that out.
Right.
If we get 5 or 6 inches, we're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, I mean,
These are just 1-inch storms.
right.
They're so
It was
saturated.
pretty.
Everything's, I don't really expected this seasonal. I am working on it.
Okay.
I think that is all.
That's it. All right. Meeting minutes, September 25th and October 9th. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
We'll have to continue September 25th because Elizabeth wasn't here.
Okay.
And I don't know if everyone's getting the emails I send them, because I know sometimes they're not going through. So did everyone get the October 9th minutes when I sent them?
I did.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
And I got them again today.
I just wanted to make sure I
Yeah, I
forgot.
didn't get them the first time for some
Yeah.
reason, but I got them today.
You probably
I'm gonna
already
do
gotten the cake.
red receipts from now on.
Probably read them and forgot.
I had a chance to review both, but we'll continue the September 25th ones. Do we want to vote? Has everyone else reviewed the October 9th ones? I have, and I had no issues. So.
I did, it was brought to my attention that there was one issue with the extension permit one. It says 1 year when it should be 3 years, which I've already changed.
Okay.
So just, you read something for so long.
Yeah.
Why,
Am I eligible to vote on the October 9th minutes?
why couldn't you?
Because that extension permit was for my property.
Oh,
I believe you can vote
Yeah,
on the minutes.
it's just a minutes thing.
It's just a minute. That's not, you're not making,
Oh, you're
nothing
saying
in your
it's-
favor. There's nothing
Right.
that's gonna,
Right.
you're not gonna benefit from it.
Okay. Just checking.
Do I have a motion to accept the October 9th minutes as presented with the one change by our agent?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
one second.
All in favor? Thank you. We'll continue to September 9th, September 25th, sorry. Any new business? Sounds like we kind of covered it. Okay. Old business, we kind of covered that as well.
Sorry.
That's all right. Enforcement, 19 Willow Street. I sent out the doodle for the site visit. I don't know if the other commission members, the only ones that responded was myself and Mr. Colombo. But we,
I didn't see it.
Yeah,
you didn't.
No,
no, I didn't see it either.
but it doesn't mean anything. Doesn't it?
I must have some emails wrong.
I don't know. I had my-
But anyways, but the biggest issue is we haven't heard back from the homeowner.
Oh.
So even if you guys responded, I've reached out 3 times to the homeowner through email because I do not have their telephone number, but
I can get you their telephone number if you'd like.
and I've got no response. So at this point, I was not here at the last meeting where I believe they were.
They were, yes.
They did tell me through email communications that they were complete with their cleanup.
You mentioned that at the meeting.
So I guess we're ready for an inspection. If, Angela, if you can get me their phone number, I'll try to reach out.
Yeah.
Make sure I have everybody's correct email address.
I just didn't. I see it now. So
Oh, okay.
You do see it?
I think it was on the city server. if I'm not
But
mistaken.
more importantly, Larry's came back because you didn't have your Leominster email address anymore. I think once you left the city, even though you were on commission, it came back undeliverable.
this city of the Leominster.
That Leominster-MA.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't. I ended up.
Right.
I could never get into that one.
So that one's gone. So
Yeah.
because it came back as
Yeah.
I sent it, I had 2 of them for you, so I
Yeah.
sent them both.
Yeah.
And the Leominster one kept coming back.
Yeah.
So I just said whatever. And that was the only one that I knew didn't get to. So, but I guess my next question is if the homeowners, and I was just responding to her email, so I know her email was correct because I was just responding back directly to hers. I've reached out 3 times and had no response. What is the next step? I mean, I can reach out by phone, which may be a little more effective, but
I mean, they seemed like they would just wanted to
close it
close
out
it
and
out.
finish it
and
up.
have
So,
somebody come have have the the sidewalk. So yeah, it's kind of weird that they.
because we can do all the doodles we want, but I
Right.
don't know if we can just show up on their property on a Saturday afternoon and say, hey, we
Right.
want to look at it.
Yeah.
They might say no, so.
Yeah, so they've already made it very clear that no one is allowed on their property without them being there.
Right.
We do have permission from the abutters on the other side to be on their properties. If, someone wanted to go over, I could go with you, and we can look from that side of the property and see if we can see.
I don't think you can see what we need
It'd be
to see.
difficult.
It would be difficult.
They would have to
Some
be-
of them are higher up, so you can kind of see.
Right.
Good eyes.
So if you can get me their phone number,
Yeah.
I'll try to reach out. Obviously, site walks between now and March will have to be done on a weekend. Unless, I know there's a couple people that can get out during, one person that can get out during the day, because they don't.
Not a lot of sites.
So I know that's difficult, but if we want to do it, it's going to have to be done on a weekend. So.
Because, when you're going, I do have the augers, so you guys can take the soil sample. I do know that was a
Okay.
concern. One concern that was mentioned to me was that someone had mentioned that it looked like it wasn't removed, that it was raked out more so than removed. So I don't know if you want to have that discussion with them when you call them.
Yeah. I think we were I remember during the site walk they asked about it. And, from what I remember, it's a pretty flat bottom wetland, and it's a very steep. To me, it'd be pretty easy to figure out where is the bottom.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a scientist or an expert to know where the bottom is.
Right.
So, but I definitely will talk to them on that. So, okay. 138 Old Tavern Road. We kind of already spoke about that. Thank you. 96 Exchange Street on hold.
Yes.
Still.
So I did go out there, I believe, last meeting to discuss where they had not. They put in the new erosion controls. Unfortunately, they had missed one flag. Mr. Colombo had come out with me to the inspection and to meet with Marcy, who's kind of like the manager for the excavating company. So she spray painted the area. She's gonna have someone go out there and move the erosion controls to the correct area. We always tell you can remove the other erosion controls because they're not correct. They're not really doing anything. But if they wanted to leave them up to make them a little bit of work, we had no objection to that. They have not called me back, I'm assuming, because of all the rains. And they do have other jobs in other towns that maybe they haven't gotten out there yet to move that one area of the erosion controls. But once they do, I'll go out and inspect. And then once that's in place, then they do have the go-ahead.
Okay. Keep us posted. I'm sure Mr. Colombo will keep an eye on it.
That's right.
723 Willard. What's the plan?
I have not received an update from Mr. Hanneman
Okay.
since last.
Can you please reach out and ask him? I know his request was, he didn't want to remove the stuff until the ground was frozen. I will tell you that the ground is starting to freeze. So we're definitely in that window where he could start the work and not wreck his landscaping.
And if I remember right, didn't the owner already construct the pad for the shed that's going to be moved?
Last I heard, but I wasn't at the last meeting.
So I thought
He
they were
was
just waiting on a...
doing that, and they was gonna move the crane. We're talking months now, so. He's definitely had ample time to do that. And I know the big issue was removing the stuff, and he wanted to wait until it's freezing. I'm not saying tomorrow it's gonna be frozen, but they're talking highs tomorrow 30. So the ground is gonna start.
Snow on Friday.
Correct. So if you could reach out to Mr. Hannigan and say by the next meeting, we definitely want.
Something.
Yeah, and I thought they had secured a crane too.
Certainly before the snow flies.
Correct.
That was the last email.
Correct.
That's Friday.
Correct.
That's right, so I'm not gonna make that deadline.
It's the clock is ticking very quickly at this point. So. So yes, the ground's starting to freeze, so it's starting to get hard, so he can bring equipment back there. So if you could do that and definitely get us an update by the next meeting, if not sooner by email, that'd be great. And Lock Drive.
So you all received the email, Mr. Zaris has sent me the site plan. I did email him today because someone had asked me if it was a stamped site plan. He said yes, it is a stamped site plan. I don't see a stamp on that plan. As well as I did call DPW to see if they had a copy, maybe it got cut off. They do not have a copy of the stamped site plan.
Okay.
Because he said it was going to be, it was done by an engineer, so I think that we need to see if we can pick one up. You know, I mean, it doesn't, you know, if it's not stamped now, we need to have one on file. I mean, this is, it's a floodplain. We kind of took him at his word that it was everything, like when he came in, I was kind of like under the impression that it was all set, and he had an engineer come up, you know, put up a plan. There was a letter from an engineer was being sent to the city.
Yeah,
Like, I
so the
thought all
letter,
that stuff was
Mr.
cleared up.
Oldfield did sign the letter, but John Grenier did not sign the letter. It was Mr. Oldfield that signed it.
Mr. Oldfield's not a professional engineer in the state of Massachusetts, so
Oh, I don't know.
he's not an engineer, so it's not stamped or signed by an engineer.
So we need to get that redone.
It's not of any value to us.
Right,
correct.
right. It might as well be done by me.
It's just a representative.
I mean, it's saying it has the same credibility and engineer, you know, legal and,
So who was here at the last meeting? Was
I
it?
was.
yeah.
Who was from Lock Drive?
Mr.
Harrison.
Harrison.
Yeah, so when he came in, he was saying that he had an engineer go out and do the thing, and he had a letter from an engineer, had a letter, and, you know, had come up with like a site plan. It wasn't as-built, but it was a site plan showing the elevations and the locations.
Okay.
So we need that signed by the
And
engineer.
his engineer is John Grenier.
Which Ken Oldfield being their representative.
Right.
So it
So
sounds like.
the only thing we have signed is from Ken Oldfield.
Yeah, so he must have got, maybe it was just a draft that he had that wasn't the actual.
Okay.
I think it was dated the 22nd, so
Yeah.
it's after the meeting, or the day before the meeting,
Can
actually.
we just reach out to the engineer?
Yeah, I'll give Mr. Grenier a call again.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, more like if he drew it, he's just put a stamp on it and send it to us.
Is anything happening on the site?
Not that I can see at this
Okay.
time.
Okay. Is that the understanding that nothing's going to happen?
Yeah,
until-
nothing's supposed to be happening until we lift the enforcement,
Okay.
until all of our conditions are met.
Okay.
Yeah, he seemed very willing to just not do anything until we were comfortable with the situation, and, you know, we were getting the letters right over to us. So I'm guessing it just, maybe it got mixed up in the mail or
Checks in the mail.
something, I don't know. Sure, the guys just gotta do is put a stamp on it.
Stamp on it and
send
sign
along.
it, that's correct. Emergency certifications,
And this is fine.
project updates. I have a couple questions or comments. I happen to be on Litchfield Street, over
street,
by the
sorry?
Eagles, Litchfield Street,
Litchfield.
over by the Eagles, and they're putting in, it's a cell tower.
Yeah.
Remember,
Oh,
came
yeah.
in front of us.
Yeah,
Just put that on your list of, I mean, it's pretty close to the brook there.
right, I remember that.
I didn't see anything of bad. I just noticed that construction has been started and there was excavators there and cranes there and a bunch of stuff, so.
Did
Just
they
kinda-
give notice?
I
Do they
didn't
know?
receive any notice about that, so I'll take a
There's
head out there.
definitely some construction going on. There's dirt piles and.
Yeah, I'll head out there tomorrow.
I may have to drive by there tomorrow.
Oh, no.
You know? Errands.
Pick me up.
66 Granite Street. I specifically remember them saying they'd have a conservation plan to us by November. It is now the first meeting of November. And have we had any communications with Mr. Morrow and/or Mr. Zaney from the property
Yeah, so
owner?
I did talk to Mr. Morrow before the last meeting. It didn't come at the meeting. He told me that they are working on getting the conservation plan. Unfortunately, I guess it's very difficult to get a hold of the person who's doing it, so he's hoping to have it by the end of November. But they did have a meeting scheduled with the person. I don't know exactly who the person is. I was gonna give the NRCS a call. Maybe, I don't know if I'd be crossing a boundary and kind of see where it is.
Okay.
But that's where, that I haven't had updates since then. I did send him a copy of the agenda, but.
Okay. I would appreciate if you could reach out to Mr. Morrow and just state that, our next meeting is November 27th, and I would like, along with potentially some other conservation members,
I was gonna ask the same question tonight myself.
at least an update
An update.
of when to expect it, and,
Yeah.
if it's done, great, and put it on the agenda and we'll come forward. If not, when should we expect it?
The night of the RDA, we were told that we would be in receipt of the conservation plan no later than November 30th.
Okay.
I have it right here on my calendar.
Okay.
So I was gonna ask the same question.
So our next meeting is obviously 27th.
27th, so we should have some 3 days to spare.
3 days to spare, but, you know. And that's it. Those were my two.
Stole my thunder.
Sorry, Paul.
It's all right. There'll be others.
Any other project updates from any other members you'd like to know? What about Ava Drive? How's that project going?
DP's working with them on it. They have been working on it, but unfortunately the weather has been challenging for them to get out there and get the work done. We need a couple dry days.
Yeah, I drove by maybe a few weeks ago.
I haven't noticed any significant stormwater or anything coming off the site. I try to go by every time it rains.
Okay.
Did we get any information on Harvard Street, the installation of the sewer line? Is that been started? Or?
Not this time. They are going to be scheduling a meeting with me once they are able to. I do know it's the GVC company that will be doing it. But from my last conversation with Mr. Cleves, my understanding is that they have a couple other jobs they need to finish first, which keeps getting pushed back because of all the weather. All the weather is kind of messing up everyone's job sites right now.
Obviously, that's under an enforcement order.
Yeah.
Is that a 1 year? Is that?
I believe it was July. I want to say it was July 2019 was kind of the deadline to have that finished.
That's my question.
For some reason, July 6th out to me. I'll double check that.
But we're almost 6 months into that. 1 year. Okay. Okay.
And the winter's coming.
It's going to take a big chunk. That's 6 months.
And then they're gonna get busy in the springtime.
Correct.
Let's not be positive.
Dogtail syndrome.
Any other projects? All right. Budget. I don't see a budget.
Not at this time. I haven't made any purchases other than my mileage, which is $32. I wasn't able to print it. I couldn't log in today, so they just redid my computer on Friday. So
agent's report.
I've pretty much verbally given it throughout the meeting. I don't believe there's anything else. I did get an update on the North Street project. That's the project between Fitchburg, Lunenburg, and Leominster. They haven't really done too much work in Leominster yet. They're still kind of working their way over, but I still get the updates. And then I did get a call about one home over on Old Deerfield Road. They're putting in a new garage. They have a wetland down that's kind of down the road from them, but their house slopes that way. I went on the site. I didn't really see any concerns. There's enough, the topography kind of ramps up and down enough where there's not going to be any effect, and they're well out of the buffer zone.
Okay.
Oh, and I did have a conversation with Mr. Klemenakis and his contractor. They had a concern where his home is here. There's a culvert up the road here that was clogged, and they believe that when there's all the rain, the culvert was clogged, so the water kind of came down, washed out the area, which is the city's responsibility, was the culvert. Unfortunately, it was brought to my attention that they actually never laid down the seeds. The first time around when they done the stabilization, they just put the jute matting down. So I kind of advised him that, the area wasn't stabilized. There's no way to kind of tell what the cause was, unfortunately. They're working on getting the area in. Unfortunately, it's too wet to get a machine in there to remove it because the machine will just sink down the slope and cause more damage. So they're working on it. They did put some more erosion measures in to prevent anything else. And they're going to be putting in a gravel berm. Yes, they're gravel berm. And they have ordered the seed, and they'll be starting as soon as the weather gets along with their schedules.
All right. I do not have a chairman's report this evening. Our next meeting is Tuesday, November 27th, with a filing deadline of the 14th. Is there anything else anybody would like to discuss?
No, sir.
And seeing nothing, this meeting is adjourned.